Hi, I'm Kim Westland. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to ask you something. Has clutter taken over your life? I know that's a pretty broad, random question, but I'm going to unpack this a bit today because I think it's something that really does affect us on a daily basis. And I want to be clear, clutter isn't just about a room that needs tidying up. Now, that could be part of it, but that's not entirely what I'm talking about today. It's so much more than that. Clutter can absolutely stop you from achieving the kind of success that you would like to. And this could be a clue into what's stopping you today. So I want you to pay close attention to what we're going to address. Clutter can keep you stalled out and really distracted from so many important things in your life. And you may be thinking, clutter has the ability to do that? Yes, it can. And I'm going to talk to you about how and some of the surprising ways that clutter can sneak up on you. In our quest to succeed in life, it's easy to want to collect more and more and more and take on more mentally and emotionally and in other ways. And we become somewhat conditioned to think that if we are gathering more things, that we are succeeding. And I'm going to say this just isn't always the case. There's nothing wrong with accumulating some stuff. But if the stuff that we're accumulating is derailing us, then we are managing the stuff more than we're managing our progression. And this is one of those sneaky ways that clutter can show up in our lives. And if that's the case, it's time to reassess. I really believe clutter has the ability to become such a weight and to begin to slow us down in unimaginable ways, and some more than others. You may be at a complete halt in your life, and that is just not going to help you succeed in life. It can choke out our dreams and our goals for the future. And you may be thinking, well, how would my dreams and my goals be affected by an unorganized house or office? This may be such big news for you today, but there is a connection between the two. It can be a sign that something isn't getting addressed. Clutter can literally be a huge distraction in our lives. It could be a sign that we're avoiding something. But if we also lack discipline, it can be a recipe for failure until we do something about it. So we don't want to leave this unaddressed. We want to tackle this. We want to understand how clutter affects us. So if this sounds familiar, some of you watching may be trying to fill a void in your life, having a lot of things around us and busy in our physical spaces and in our minds can keep us away from the root of the problem. Have you ever noticed that? Have you noticed people around you sometimes so busy, not productive, but just really, really busy, and you can see that their life is blowing up from the inside out? That's what I'm talking about. You may be seeking clutter and noise to keep you away from the actual issue. Clutter can keep you stuck in the past, and it can also keep you stuck right where you are. Maybe you feel you're at an absolute halt in your life. It's hard to be forward focused when we have a lot of yesterday's stuff surrounding us. The good news, though, is that you can do something about it. This is not too far gone. It's not insurmountable for you to deal with it. But you do have to be intentional. You have to pay attention to the signs. The first area that clutter can show up is probably the most obvious one. It's our physical space. And I think most of us know how easy it is to accumulate stuff, as I mentioned earlier. We're a bit of a throwaway society these days. You know, I think back to when my parents were raising me, and they didn't collect things like we do today. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. The things were bought with intention, and things were better quality back then, it seems. When things were bought, they were a little pricier, but they lasted for years and years. Today, we're throwing stuff away. We buy something one week and it's gone the next week. We just don't have the same appreciation, I find, for a lot of the things that we are purchasing today. Houses are bigger than what we used to have years ago. So sometimes I think it's not a matter of space. Some of it is just plain old disorganization. I've heard that 1 out of every 10 or so people rent offsite storage units. And this is a thing. I have noticed that storage units are popping up everywhere. They have a booming business. People are seeking for places to put all of the overflow things. I've also noticed as I drive down my neighborhood, sometimes somebody will have their garage door up and I'll see it just stacked to the door, full of stuff. They're not even parking their cars in garages because there's too much stuff in them. And this is a real problem because what your home looks like on the inside is an indication of how you will manage other parts of your life. Did you ever consider the connection? So let me ask you, do you feel at rest when you look at an unorganized room in your home? Or are you one of the people that has your garage chocked full of additional things and you can't even park your vehicle in it? I know there's been times that my basement can get out of control. We have an unfinished basement in our home, and it tends to be the place where we put the extras. So, if I don't know what to do with this box, I'll throw it in the basement. And I've noticed that it's on my mind. When it gets out of control, once in a while I think, "Oh, I got to clean up that basement." And when I go in the basement, it's even more on my mind and it caused me a little bit of anxiety. Putting off little messes can lead to massive procrastination. Things can pile up quickly, and before we know it, those little messes are now mountains. Are you facing a mountain today in your physical space? So our mood is affected by our surroundings. Think about the different rooms that you've walked into. For me, I like going for a massage every once in a while. And when I walk into my massage therapist's room, the lights are dim, there's light music playing, there's just a massage table and a little decorative corner, and that's about it. I feel so instantly relaxed when I walk into that room. She's done a very good job of creating an environment in order to calm me and let me enjoy my massage. You think about a gym. When I would go to the gym, as soon as I open the door, you got music pumping. There's people running around. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of clanging of weights around, and there's just a hustle and bustle. And when I walk in, I'm like, ooh, my energy levels go up and I'm ready to work out with the rest of these amazing people here. How do you feel when you walk into a room in your own home? Does your physical environment match your values? There's a thought. Well, you're going to say, what do your values have to do with this? Well, for me, one of my values is excellence. So if my space does not reflect my value of excellence, it actually affects me very deeply. Pay attention to the signs of physical clutter and what may really be at the root of it. A cluttered environment is a sign of a cluttered mind. So mental clutter is another area that I know I've experienced in my own life. One day I was working in my office and I had my laptop open and my daughter walked in the room. And I have to be careful with this, but I happened to have way too many tabs open. They were kind of so tiny across the top of my laptop that you couldn't even really barely see what they were anymore because they were so crowded together. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. And my daughter walked in the room and she looked at them and said, "I am so stressed looking at your laptop." And I just kind of stopped and I looked at them and I hadn't even noticed, but I had so many open that it stressed her out. And I realized I was doing way too many things and I had way too many mental tabs open along with my physical tabs. And I was having a frustrated day of not accomplishing much. And I realized, wow, my open tabs are affecting me in my mental capacity. There's been a lot of studies done on clutter and stress and productivity. And our visual cortex can be so overloaded that it's affecting our productivity in a big way. Peggy Noonan has a good quote here that I'll mention. By trying to do too much, you risk not doing enough. And I know if I'm not careful, I can fall very easily into that category. By being overloaded, we can also encounter something called decision fatigue. And that's where we kind of get trapped and not able to make a proper decision, or we're not confident in our decisions. And that can pile up very, very quickly. If you have a business where you're not making decisions effectively on a daily basis, that can stop you right where you are. It requires more mental effort to make those decisions. So if we are cluttered with too many things happening, it's harder to do. It increases that stress and that anxiety. And what ends up happening is then overwhelm takes over and we feel like too much, can't do it, and then procrastinating. And that's really when things get seriously out of control. So start paying attention to the thought patterns and how they're affecting you. So there's another area that I'd like to address here as well, and that is the area of emotional clutter. And this is an area where we're not easily able to let go of things because we have an emotional attachment to them. One thing growing up, my daughter had all these things that I wanted to keep, like beautiful pictures she would draw me and notes she would make me and cards and all the different activities that she did. And it was really easy to want to keep everything. But I made a decision that I had to let go of some things. I kept the really important things, but there was a lot of things that I just had to let go of because I only had so much space. There's times when we have to take inventory of what we are emotionally attached to and what we may be keeping us stuck in that place of not being able to move on. People living in cluttered environments reported feeling more stressed and less happy overall. Some of the things that could come up if you want to really start unpacking how your emotions are attached, you could even uncover maybe there's feelings of unforgiveness or just unprocessed feelings that are being avoided. Maybe they're attached to ongoing conflict or maybe a failed marriage or unfulfilled desires in your life or even past experiences that just keep lingering in our minds. Clutter can be associated with all of these heavy emotions. And I would suggest if this is the case, you can get help in this area. And I would certainly encourage you to seek out some external help with this area. But the good news is that it can be addressed. It just takes recognizing if these emotions are a part of that clutter in your life. I want you to ask yourself as you look around today, where is my life cluttered? What has gotten out of control? Physically, emotionally, mentally. There's 3 things that I'm going to give you today to help get you started on a path of decluttering. The first thing we have to do seems so simple, but it is the most important first step, and that is to acknowledge and get honest with yourself about the fact that there is an issue with clutter and to take inventory on what is cluttered. You have to write this down. You have to get clear on what is hindering you. And I want to remind you, this isn't about judging yourself. It's about clarifying and being honest about the situation. The second thing is I want you to get a vision. And what vision do you have for your space? What are your priorities? Take one room in your home and look at it and visualize what this space can look like. Write it down. Even close your eyes and think, how can this room serve me and my goals? How do I want this room to feel when I walk in here? What can this room do for my family and myself? Make a list of what needs to stay and what needs to go. Get very, very detailed because you can have a vision for your physical space. The third thing is after we've acknowledged and we've gotten a vision for our space, we have to put action behind it. And we have to adopt a do it now attitude. Get some accountability if this is something that you really struggle with and that you know that you cannot do on your own. Don't overwhelm yourself by looking at everything at once. Start with one room, one corner, one drawer even. The point is just start. Do this all again on a regular basis. The key here is you want to keep your productivity high and your clutter down. Here are some of the key benefits of decluttering. You can find things again. You are going to save money. You will become more focused and most likely more creative. What you focus on matters. You will be less stressed. I'm going to say you will even build better connections with people, not just your own family, but a cluttered home, a cluttered office, or even a cluttered car can hinder you from wanting people in your space. You may be missing out on building some great relationships and time spent with interesting people just because of a cluttered space. You will just feel better all around. So the final point that I want to make, and it's such an important one, clearing out what doesn't need to be there and addressing that clutter head on could be setting you up for promotion. I think that's pretty exciting because I believe we can't graduate to another level until we get serious about where we're at today. We are making room for other things to fill our space. We're taking the old and we're making room for the new. That can be such an exciting thought as you plan and you create your goals and your vision for your life moving forward. Decluttering your space is going to actually make room for them to become a reality. And once you start doing this, momentum can take over and lead you into more and more success. I am cheering you on. I hope you've enjoyed this message today. Thank you for tuning in.